Did you know that 1 in 3 women and 1 in 5 men over the age of 60 suffer from osteoporosis? What does this really mean for your health? Osteoporosis, often seen as a distant condition or just another consequence of aging, is actually a much more a serious problem than one might think. When osteoporosis strikes, it begins to silently erode the bones in the body. It's making them more fragile and susceptible to fractures. The severity of this is not immediately apparent, and many people only realize the problem when they are already experiencing severe pain or a fall that could have been avoided. Now, think about this. 1 in 3 women and 1 in 5 men over the age of 60 suffer from this condition. This number is alarming, and the reality is that many do not even know they are at risk. Behind every number, there is a life that is being impacted, and although the process is gradual, the consequences can be devastating. Osteoporosis doesn't discriminate against gender or lifestyle. Even those who stay active and take care of their health can be caught off guard, as the disease often develops without any visible symptoms until it's already advanced. This means that as you continue to go about your daily life, your bones are losing density and strength. You may not feel it, but they are weakening. And when the first fracture happens, the feeling of helplessness is almost inevitable. Additionally, there is an important psychological and emotional issue that is often overlooked. The impact of a fracture can be much more profound than you might think. Losing mobility, autonomy, and confidence in your body can lead to social isolation and mental health issues. All of this contributes to a lower quality of life and, in some cases, can even trigger depression. The big question here is, do you really know what is happening to your bones? Many people reach their 60s or older without realizing that they are on the brink of such a serious problem. Osteoporosis not only has a physical impact, but also an emotional one, affecting your confidence, your relationships, and your way of life. Now is the time to stop and think about your bone health before the situation becomes irreversible. Osteoporosis is often called the silent disease, and rightly so. It doesn't show any obvious signs until the damage is severe. Often people don't realize that their bones are becoming more fragile until something tragic happens, like a fall that results in a fracture. Bone density gradually decreases over time, but there is no pain or obvious symptoms. This creates a false sense of security, as people can feel fine and continue to go about their daily lives, believing that they are healthy. And it is precisely because of this lack of signs that osteoporosis is so dangerous. The human body has an incredible ability to adapt and hide problems. And bones, despite their strength, can be disintegrating without you even realizing it. This is even more worrying for those over 60, as osteoporosis tends to affect more people as we age. With age, the bone turnover process slows down, causing the body to lose more bone mass than it can replace. But the absence of visible symptoms does not mean that osteoporosis is harmless. On the contrary, it can have devastating effects on your mobility and quality of life. Imagine, for example, an elderly person who feels fine and, in a moment of carelessness, suffers a fall that might be trivial for someone younger, but which, in their case, results in a serious fracture. This fracture can mean months of recovery, loss of independence, and even the inability to carry out daily activities. Osteoporosis is also a leading cause of fractures in the hip, spine, and wrist, which are the most vulnerable areas. Fractures can often be more than just physical. It can also be emotional and psychological. The loss of mobility that comes with these fractures can mean that the elderly person will have to rely on others for simple tasks, such as getting dressed, bathing, or shopping. This is especially painful for those who have always been independent. Finally, one of the worst consequences of osteoporosis is the hunched posture, or what is popularly called dowager's hump, which is an abnormal curvature of the spine. This phenomenon occurs when the bones of the vertebrae become so fragile that they begin to collapse. In addition to causing pain, this deformity affects self-esteem, bringing about a huge psychological impact. It is not just an aesthetic issue. Difficulty breathing and constant pain become a daily burden for the affected person. Osteoporosis can therefore drastically change the way we live. It goes beyond fractures and physical pain. It affects our independence, self-esteem, and even our ability to live a full life. This is why you need to understand the importance of taking action before the disease manifests itself in a devastating way. The issue is not with you or at risk, but when osteoporosis can start to affect your life irreversibly. Maria, a 68-year-old woman, had always been active. She enjoyed walking, tending to her garden, and still found time to spend time with her grandchildren on the weekends. For her, life seemed to be at its best, peaceful, healthy, and full of small daily joys. But little by little, something began to change, although she didn't notice it right away. At first, it was a slight pain in her back. Nothing that made her think anything serious was wrong. She simply thought it was a consequence of aging. One day, while climbing the stairs in her home, Maria tripped and fell. The fall seemed minor, but the pain that followed was excruciating. She felt severe discomfort in her lower back and had difficulty moving. At first, she thought it was just a minor injury, perhaps a stiff neck. But when she went to the hospital for tests, the diagnosis was devastating: severe osteoporosis. Her bones were much weaker than she had imagined, and the fall, which would have been trivial for people without the condition, had resulted in a fracture. The psychological impact was profound. Maria, who had always been an active and independent person, found herself facing a reality she had never imagined. She had to undergo surgery, and afterward, spent months in recovery. During that time, she lost her mobility, and the constant pain prevented her from resuming her normal activities. One thing that had previously seemed unlikely, such as having to rely on others to get dressed and do simple activities, became a new reality that Maria had to learn to deal with. In addition, the feeling of vulnerability and loss of self-esteem were equally difficult to overcome. She worried about the future. Would this happen again? Could she trust her body after the fracture? The days began to seem longer, and Maria began to fear even the smallest movements, not knowing when she might fall again, or when osteoporosis would catch up with her again. The worst part of all was realizing that she could have prevented this situation. Maria had never thought about osteoporosis before, had never worried about strengthening her bones or taking preventative measures. She didn't know that falls were one of the biggest threats to her health, and that osteoporosis could make those falls much more serious. What if she had gotten tested earlier? What if she had changed her lifestyle habits before her osteoporosis was so advanced? Maria's story is just one of many, but it perfectly illustrates what happens when osteoporosis is ignored or not diagnosed in time. This silent disease can change lives irrevocably, and the effects can be much more profound than one might imagine. For Maria, the awakening came too late, but for you, it may be time to act now, before the consequences of osteoporosis change your life irreversibly. When we talk about osteoporosis, many people tend to focus solely on fractures and loss of mobility. But the consequences of this disease go far beyond the physical, directly affecting the mental and emotional health and quality of life of those who suffer from it. Fractures are not just a problem of pain, they can profoundly change the way you live and relate to the world around you. Let's explore the many layers of the impact of osteoporosis. First, there is the question of reduced mobility. When a person suffers a bone fracture, recovery can be long and painful, depending on the severity of the injury. In the case of hip fractures, for example, limitations can last for months or even years, and intensive rehabilitation is required. This can result in loss of autonomy. Everyday activities, such as walking to the grocery store or even going for a walk around the neighborhood, can become challenging. For many people, this is enough to change the way they view life. Not feeling capable of performing simple tasks can affect your self-esteem and confidence. In addition to mobility, chronic pain is another common consequence of osteoporosis. While obvious fractures are the most visible, bone wear and tear over time can cause constant pain, even without an actual fracture. Back pain is a clear example of this. When the vertebrae lose density, they can collapse, causing persistent pain that makes even the simplest activities difficult. Chronic pain can lead to discouragement, has depression, even social isolation, as the person begins to avoid interactions or activities that were previously pleasurable. There is also the profound psychological impact that occurs when a person feels vulnerable. An unexpected fracture followed by a painful recovery can create a constant fear that another fall will happen. This creates a permanent anxiety about the future. People with osteoporosis often feel at risk of losing their independence, which can be very distressing, especially for those who have always been active and self-sufficient. This constant fear can lead to more isolated behaviors, with the person avoiding social activities, which in turn worsens the feeling of loneliness. Furthermore, there is the issue of physical deformation that osteoporosis can cause. As bones become more fragile, they can become compressed or fracture irreversibly, leading to changes in posture, such as the famous hunchback posture. This is not just a cosmetic issue. The deformities can affect the ability to breathe properly and can cause severe pain. Physical deformation can become a constant reminder of the condition. It's further affecting a person's confidence in their appearance and their ability to cope with life's difficulties. Finally, the social effect. The effects of osteoporosis cannot be underestimated. When someone with osteoporosis begins to withdraw from activities and social interactions, their quality of life begins to decline. Support from friends, family, and colleagues is essential, but many people with osteoporosis end up feeling like emotional burden for others, which can lead to a greater sense of isolation. Fractures don't just affect the body, they affect how a person sees themselves and how they relate to others, creating a spiral of social and psychological distancing. Osteoporosis, therefore, goes beyond being a bone disease. It is a disease that affects all spheres of life. The physical impact is the first to be noticed, but the emotional and psychological repercussions can be even more devastating. That is why it is essential not only to treat the fractures and symptoms, but to understand the disease holistically, including the emotional and social aspects, to prevent it from destroying quality of life in a silent and profound way. The good news is that osteoporosis doesn't have to be a permanent sentence. With the right knowledge and preventative measures, you can take control of your bone health, slow the progression of the disease, and even prevent irreversible damage. The key is to act early, adopt lifestyle changes, and have regular medical checkups. Let's take a look at what you can do to strengthen your bones and prevent osteoporosis. First is essential: adapt a diet rich in nutrients that promote bone health. Calcium and vitamin D are the two most important components for strong bones. Calcium helps in the formation and maintenance of bone density, while vitamin D is crucial for the absorption of this calcium by the body. Therefore, ensuring that you consume calcium-rich foods such as milk, cheese, yogurt, dark green vegetables like broccoli and kale, fatty fish like salmon and sardines that contain vitamin D is a key step in preventing osteoporosis. Furthermore, the physical exercises. One of the most effective strategies to combat osteoporosis: physical activity, especially resistance, exercise, such as strength training, walking, running, and even high-impact activities like dancing or jumping rope, can help increase bone density and strengthen the muscles around your bones. When your muscles are stronger, they provide greater support to your bones, reducing the risk of fractures. In addition, regular exercise helps improve your balance, which can be crucial in preventing falls, one of the biggest risks for people with osteoporosis. Regular medical evaluation is another essential action. Exams such as bone densitometry, which measures bone mineral density, are essential for detecting osteoporosis before it causes significant damage. People over the age of 60 should undergo these tests periodically, especially if they have a family. The history of osteoporosis or fractures. Identifying osteoporosis in its early stages is crucial, as it allows for more effective preventive or treatment measures to be taken, without the disease progressing to an irreversible stage. Furthermore, specific medications may be necessary in some cases. There are modern treatments that help increase bone density or even prevent fractures. Medications such as bisphosphonates, which help reduce bone loss, or other hormonal treatments that stimulate bone formation, may be prescribed by your doctor, depending on the severity of osteoporosis. The use of calcium and vitamin D supplements may also be recommended in cases where diet alone is not enough to meet the body's needs. Another crucial point is to avoid habits that may further damage your bones. Smoking and excessive alcohol consumption are two major enemies of bone health. Smoking reduces the body's ability to absorb calcium, while alcohol can interfere with bone metabolism. In addition, excessive caffeine intake can also contribute to bone loss. By eliminating or reducing these risk factors, you can help keep your bones stronger and healthier over time. With these practices, you are not only preventing fractures and bone problems in the future, but also ensuring a more active, independent life without the emotional impacts that osteoporosis can cause. Preventative action is always the best defense against osteoporosis. By adopting a healthy eating routine, regular physical exercise, adequate medical monitoring, and avoiding harmful habits can not only prevent osteoporosis, but also improve your quality of life in a lasting way. Now that we understand what can be done to prevent and treat osteoporosis, it's important to explore concrete actions you can take to improve your bone health in practical and effective ways. From simple lifestyle changes to more specialized medical treatments, the key to tackling osteoporosis is taking consistent, determined action. Let's take a look at some of the most effective solutions for strengthening your bones. 1. Adopt a diet rich in calcium and vitamin D. Start with your diet. Strengthen your bones and prevent osteoporosis. It's crucial to make sure your diet is rich in calcium and vitamin D. Calcium is the main mineral that makes up your bones, and vitamin D helps your body absorb this calcium. Include foods like dairy products, milk, yogurt, cheese, excellent sources of calcium, dark green leafy vegetables, cabbage, broccoli, spinach, rich in calcium, fatty fish, salmon, sardines, tuna, rich in vitamin D, calcium-fortified foods, such as juices, cereals, and plant-based milk. Additionally, expose yourself to the sun in moderation. As sunlight is also an important source of vitamin D, remember that a balanced diet rich in essential nutrients can be your first and most powerful ally against osteoporosis. 2. Physical exercises to strengthen bones. Physical activity is one of the most effective ways to combat osteoporosis. Regular exercise strengthens bones, improves balance, and reduces the risk of falls, which are one of the biggest problems for people with osteoporosis. Focus on resistance exercise and activities of moderate impact tear. It's particularly effective in improving bone density. Daily walking, especially outdoors, helps strengthen the bones in your legs and hips. Bodybuilding, lifting light weights helps increase bone density and strengthens the muscles around the bones, providing greater support and stability. Dance. In addition to being fun, dancing also helps improve mobility and balance, making it an excellent activity for those who want to prevent fractures. Balance training, yoga and Pilates are great for strengthening your core and improving balance, preventing falls. It is important to remember that any exercise that involves a moderate impact or resistance is beneficial. However, before beginning any exercise regimen, especially if you already have osteoporosis, it is essential to consult a doctor to ensure that the activity is safe for you. 3. Regular medical monitoring, a bone densitometry. A simple test that measures bone mineral density is essential for diagnosing osteoporosis early. Regular checkups, especially if you are over 60 or have a family history of osteoporosis, are a way to detect the disease before it causes serious fractures. Additionally, your doctor may recommend the use of preventive medication or calcium and vitamin D supplements if your diet is not sufficient. In more advanced cases, there are medications that help prevent bone loss, such as bisphosphonates, which strengthen bones and help reduce the risk of fractures. Regular follow-up with a doctor who specializes in osteoporosis, such as an orthopedist or endocrinologist, is one of the safest ways to keep your bone health in check. You can recommend appropriate treatments and adjust your prescriptions as needed. 4. Avoid habits that are harmful to your bones, in addition to adopting healthy habits. It is important to eliminate behaviors that harm bone health. The smoking and the excessive alcohol consumption have a direct negative impact on bone density, making bones more fragile and susceptible to fractures. Tobacco reduces calcium absorption and interferes with bone formation, while alcohol can decrease the production of osteoblasts, the cells responsible for building bones. Furthermore, excessive consumption of caffeine can also contribute to bone loss. So it is advisable to moderate your consumption of coffee and other products that contain caffeine. 5. Calcium and vitamin D supplementation. If you have trouble getting enough calcium and vitamin D through your diet, supplementation may be a solution. Supplements calcium, keep bones strong, and prevent bone loss, while vitamin D is essential for the absorption of this calcium. However, it is important that supplementation is done under medical supervision to ensure the correct dose and avoid problems such as kidney stones or vitamin D toxicity. Osteoporosis can seem like a daunting condition, but with the right commitment and concrete actions, you can prevent the disease from progressing and keep your bones healthy and strong. The key is to act now. By adopting healthy habits, having regular checkups, exercising, and, if necessary, following medical treatments, you will be on the right track to protecting your bone health and living a better, safer life. Now that you know the real impact osteoporosis can have on your life, and the practical solutions that can help you prevent and treat this condition, it's time to take action. What you do today can determine the kind of life you will have in the years to come. Don't wait until it's too late. Taking action now could be the key to ensuring you continue to live independently, confidently, and healthy. Remember, osteoporosis doesn't have to be a death sentence. With the right steps, you can strengthen your bones, improve your quality of life, and prevent fractures that can limit your freedom. Prevention starts with knowledge, and now you have the information you need to take control of your bone health. Responsibility is yours, and the future of your health depends on how you react to this moment. So take control of your health. Make a commitment to yourself. Start adopting healthy habits, such as a balanced diet, exercising, and scheduling your bone density test. If you already have osteoporosis, seek appropriate treatment and follow your doctor's instructions. You have the power to change your trajectory. Now is the time to act. Don't wait any longer. The risk of osteoporosis is all around you, but you have the tools to combat it. Prevention starts today. Start with small changes that will make a big difference in the long run. You too can live an active, healthy life without the limitations that osteoporosis can cause. Don't let osteoporosis define your future. With the right care, you can continue to live the life you deserve, full, independent, and full of energy. Now, it's up to you. What will you do to protect your bones and ensure a healthier future? Schedule your appointment, take care of your body, and be the change in your life. The future is in your hands. Don't waste time. Act now and live healthier. Now that you have all the resources to understand and prevent osteoporosis, what will you do with this information? Are you ready to start taking care of your bones and ensure a future without limitations? Let's go on this journey towards health together.